Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. Well, we're almost at the halfway point, Scott, of the NFL season. I thought we'd do a little mid-season report card for the NFL, because I got to tell you, Scott, this year for the NFL, we used to talk about, Rozelle used to always parity. That's what he wanted in the NFL. We ain't got parity this year, buddy. We got the haves and have-nots, and there's a whole lot of have-nots in the NFL this year. We've got 5 undefeated teams. We're going to start there. I'm going to ask you, of the 5 undefeated teams, we've got New England, Cincinnati, Denver, Green Bay, and Carolina. Out of there, who's legitimate to you, or is there somebody in there that you think's been doing it a little bit of smoke and mirrors?
I'll tell you my list of the undefeated teams and what I put next to each one of their names. Patriots for real, obvious. Bengals, whether they beat Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football or not Sunday Night Football, but on Sunday, they're for real whether they beat Pittsburgh or not. The Broncos cannot continue without an offense. Green Bay Packers for real, obviously. The Panthers, this might surprise some people. The Carolina Panthers, I think, the jury is still a little bit out, and here's why. I know they don't have the great wideouts for Cam Newton to find downfield. The defense plays pretty well. They've got a real nice tight end, and he and Cam Newton have a real good symbiosis going on almost each and every Sunday. Just ask the Seattle Seahawks secondary. But I like Cam Newton, and I still don't think he quite gets his just due. I think this guy has matured so much as a leader on the field in his time in the NFL from where he was, even his second year in the NFL. He knows what to do and when to do it. He doesn't have the weapons around him, so there's always that chance where they could go on a little bit of a losing skid. And I'll get into a little bit about their schedule and everything else as we keep going on this one. But again, for me, I lean a little bit more, maybe not an undefeated football team, but a 10-6, 11-5 playoff team that can advance in the playoffs under a guy like Cam Newton. I think he's still not getting his just due as an NFL starting quarterback.
Well, they're finally going to play a first-place team this
right.
week. It's still a losing
That's why the jury's still a little bit out.
But it's still a losing record. They're playing 3 and 4. Indianapolis is in first place. That's what I'm talking about, how much of a disparity there is. And I know, you can only play who's in front of you. Right. And the fact that none of the teams they played so far have winning records is not their fault. They took care of business. So I'm not quite as high on Carolina. They're undefeated. I'll give them their due and give them credit. They had a big game 2 weeks ago going to Seattle. It was playoff revenge. Turn around and come back and play on a Sunday night game and took care of a Philadelphia team, which Philadelphia kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple times. Game could have went either way, but Carolina was in control most of the game. Yeah.
Off the big win, they were still ready.
Yeah, that was a big key. But I'll tell you what I do like about Carolina, and you talk about Cam Newton. As the season progresses and we get later in the season and it starts to become cold weather, their style of offense and that hard-nosed defense that they're playing right now, that is the perfect recipe for play. And I know the league has changed. It's all, flash, go down the field,
but you got to be able to run the ball.
You got to be able to run the football. And whenever you get into a cold weather city, if they have to go into, let's say Green Bay has home field.
Sure.
You got to go into that frozen tundra.
You got to be able to run.
You want to tackle Cam Newton when he goes on, a read option play. You got that 200 and something.
You got to have a tight end. And guess what? They've got both.
And they got a nice running back right now. And remember, for the years, they had the 2 of them back there.
Sure.
And now D'Angelo Williams is in Pittsburgh. I think it's helped now. Instead of changing back and forth with the running backs, you got the one guy doing it. I think they will continue to get better as the season goes.
Here's what's coming up. Let me just real quickly tell you, because we know what they've played so far. 4 of their wins were against Jacksonville, Houston, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay. None of those are going to set the world on fire. After Indy and Green Bay, the Panthers play 5 of their next 7 on the road, including at Dallas, at Atlanta, at the New York Giants. And I really believe that by the final week of the season, they're probably going to be 10-6. But that's going to be good enough in all likelihood to get a wild card spot and get in, because the Atlanta Falcons are the one team that could knock them off as far as the division winner is concerned. The Falcons with only 1 loss. I'll real quickly say this about Cam Newton when I describe his maturity level. You can look at one play that I think tells you all you need to know about Cam Newton and his advancement in the NFL as a leader, not just a quarterback. Coming out of the huddle, they're trailing Seattle late in the game, less than a couple of minutes to go. They're about the 25-yard line of Seattle, and they're just a regular walking up to the line of scrimmage offense. He looks, and he sees something's going on with that Seattle defense. Both of Seattle's safeties looked like they were chickens with their heads cut off. They weren't sure where they were supposed to be. Cam starts screaming, gets his team to the line of scrimmage like that, and guess what? He hits the game winner, 30-yard pass or whatever it was, touchdown to a wide-open tight end. He recognized right away what was going on before anybody had a chance to call a timeout and took advantage of it.
Definitely matured. We ran a little bit long in this. I'm going to ask you one question on one of the have-nots. What do you do with a team like Baltimore that's a perennial playoff team, and to be sitting where they're sitting at right now, season's pretty much over for them? Do they toss the towel?
It's crazy how close they've been in so many games that they've lost this year. I mean, just single digits, losses. You've got a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Joe Flacco who doesn't have great wide receivers around him. 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. So you had to expect they were going to struggle a little bit, and that schedule constantly going to the West Coast back and forth has been a real bear. I don't think because of the coach and because of Flacco, I don't think that this is a team that's just going to mail it in. Maybe 1 week or two along the line, but I think they're going to be a dangerous football team late in the season. And remember those teams with bad records late in the season?
Yeah.
Pretty good spread covers and bets at the window over the course of the last decade or two in the NFL.
All right, well, it's going to be an interesting rest of the season. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if some of these have-nots can start to be a have, and if the haves come back to the pack. All right, he's Scott Spreitzer. I'm Marco D'Angelo. Be sure to check out the weekend package, guys. Head on over to wagertalk.com. Weekend all access every Thursday through Monday. You can get everything for $69. It's the best deal going. One price, you get your favorite cappers plays for the entire weekend. Be sure to check out all the other videos available this week at wagertalk.com.